Howdy, welcome back. Next up, kind of just looking at all the things that need to be done, and the spinner hub needs to be done. So, not sure how far I'm going to get, because I realized early on that I need the prop, and the prop is still at George's house. So, basically sourced the parts. I put the hub extension on with the fancy bolts. I didn't bolt it all in yet. This is supposed to fit on here very tight, but it doesn't. So I gotta file these out probably as evenly as I possibly can. Then these two get screwed together somehow, and the instructions say that the back is all finished. And you gotta cut this out for the prop. So there's a few kind of nerve-wracking things you gotta do, because I don't want to mess it up. But I'm probably gonna go grab the prop, and one of the reasons is because even though they give you a template, but you kind of want to make sure it fits nicely, nice and tight. The first thing, file these out. Basically, they want you to use a dowel with some sandpaper around it. Here we go. Alright, that went a lot easier than I thought it would. Didn't have to sand much at all, literally just a few strokes, but I did have to do the middle one. Fits nice and tight, and we'll see what's next. Alright, up next is they want you to cut these out, full-size templates, put them on cardboard or poster board, draw a circle, a compass. So this thing's 12¼ inches in diameter. So I cut a square piece of wood, 12¼ 12¼ I didn't have a compass here that goes that big, so this is my hillbilly redneck compass. I had a little pin that I put in the middle and just drew a circle, so that actually worked quite well. Yeah. Just a back strap. Put that in here, fully adjustable. And the idea is that you draw a center line through it, and that will get you your reference points, 180 degrees on either side. So I'm also using the width of this because you don't want the cone to sit, I don't know, crooked, whatever. I figured the more reference points, the better. So I did mark where I want to put it, which is right there and right there. I am just not sure if I'm gonna go with their suggestion of gluing the template on like this and then cutting it out, or physically measuring up 3.53 inches and then just using a regular compass with 1.875 radius and then cut it from there. I am going to wait until I get the prop just to kind of confirm those measurements. So for now, good night. Alright, so right now I'm just kind of playing. So I marked those lines. I basically got my reference line 180 degrees, and I put the cone down with a piece of tape on it and rubbed another piece of wood on it to get the very tip. And then I basically just lined a flexible ruler up with the tip. Did that on both sides, and I am wondering why I can't just take that 3.53 inch measurement from here and then drill a 3¾ inch hole and straighten it out this way. I think it's probably a more accurate way of doing it than tracing a template with a Dremel tool. I'm going to think about that before I do anything drastic, and I'll let you know what I come up with. Alrighty, I picked up the propeller, and a beautiful propeller it is. Along with it came the hub, some bolts, a balsa wood airplane, some more bolts, and a question mark. So this is the adapter plate, spacer plate, prop spacer, and this is the hub, and you can see 4 of them are recessed, and they look like they fit, you know, beautifully into that, but 2 of them don't, or because they're not recessed here, but obviously there's not enough meat to even do that. Anyway, long story short, I was kind of embarrassed to even ask like online, because I'm like, well, maybe I'm supposed to take these out. So I'm looking at manuals, I'm looking at instructions, I'm trying to cover all my you know, information sources. And finally I called Sam at Sabre, the manufacturer, and he's like, yep, that's just the wrong one, send it back and they'll pull these out and put flush ones in. So if you come across the 6 pins sticking out, don't waste a day or 2 scratching your head, and just get the right one. So waiting for that. I gotta send this one back first. The propeller spacer is on his way back to Texas, and I went over to George's and I grabbed the other sensor input. This is the harness that has all of the pressure sensors. So I started running those wires. I started playing with a 1/4-inch rubber fuel line spacers. I did that, and I toyed with the idea of, you know, running these directly into the 3-pin plugs, which is a standard plug. They're $5 online. Tony found them for me. Thank you, Tony. And I'm gonna see if it makes sense to just run those directly into it. One less connection, neater, and all that. And as the hub disappeared, so I cannot continue on the spinner, the oil lines showed up, or the pressure lines, oil, fuel, vacuum, from Tom. Awesome, quick service. Like literally less than a week from ordering to designing. But I got restrictor valves. He made me a bunch of them, and I didn't realize, because there was no picture on the website, and I like pictures, that these are 45s. And right off the bat, I have an issue. You can get it in 1 thread before it hits that. So I put a call out for him on that. This one's cool. This is AN6 to AN4 with a restrictor thingy built in it, and that is for the fuel pressure line that's gonna go, we talked about, from the top of the fuel pump right here to the fuel sender. So I'm gonna kind of piece them all together and see what happens. All right, back to these sensors. So this is what it comes with, and I kind of had the idea of just putting the plugs directly on the end of this. Like I said, Tony, Project S-21 sent me the link to these, and these seem to be the exact match. They are $5 up in Canada, quick delivery. And I tried a couple of attempts, and the one thing that I hadn't seen before, so first of all, this is a throttle position, a GM throttle position sensor plug. It even says Delphi on it, and I guess that's what they use it for. But the thing that threw me off was that usually you put a crimp connector on the back of the terminal and you stick it in from this end, like a Deutsch connector or whatever. These actually are pull to fit, which means you got to run all the wires through first, then put the connector on, and then pull it back to lock it in. So the first challenge was me trying to disassemble an old pin. I'm poking and pulling and trying to pull it out this way. It comes out this way. So what I did is I basically got some real thin heat shrink. I don't know if this is going to work. I've already attempted, I think this is going to work. I've already attempted 2 other methods. And I stripped back 2 inches and debraided it. Then I cut this 3/64 heat shrink, and I kept clear so you can see the colors through it. And that's basically just a spacer that nicely fits into the silicone on the back of it. Now you'll notice that the supplied ones don't fit that tight, so yeah, water could get in there no matter what. So You could argue that this might be better, who knows. Anyway, and then, all right, so I stripped back 2 inches, debraid it, then I put 1 3/4 inch heat shrink on it, and I found that you still need the cable crimp onto the original sleeving, not the actual heat shrink, so the metal and the original sleeving. So I only stripped back maybe, a little more than 1/8 of an inch, maybe like 3/16, and then this is what's left over. And the reason I did this before I put the little rubber gasket and the actual plug on, which is next, is because it's actually easier to do. I tried one with the heat shrink on it, and my particular stripper that I was using was kind of getting caught up on it, and it was a little too tight. So 2 inches and then 1 3/4 inch heat shrink, and let's see if the rest of it works. Another thing worth mentioning is that I put a little piece of heat shrink on this, so once I pull that forward I can just heat shrink the where that ends. And obviously you get one chance at putting these on, because you can't swap the pins afterwards. You actually have to take them off, which that's not going to happen. Make sure you get them in the right position. We came up with the solution that the bottom right, the black wire is the ground, we're using white orange. The red wire is power, we're using white. And then the top is the signal wire, which we're using white with the blue stripe. So I think I mentioned this before, but I'm not actually crimping onto the heat shrink, I'm crimping onto the insulation. I tried it on the heat shrink and it didn't seem to work all that well. And now it's just a matter of sliding them through, and you kind of I'm using this one for orientation of which way they get turned. Well, there you have it. I put the little label. I usually like to put them like 6 inches from the end. I put the little waterproof heat shrink on here. You can see the colors in there in case you gotta troubleshoot it. Terminals look tight. Is it worth it? Probably not for most. I like the idea of just being able to, have a nice clean connection. Oh yeah, don't put the camera down, you can't see. So anyway, so this guy will just plug in down here and maybe loop it so it goes the other way. And I just think it looks neat, and rather than having that connection there, but 6 of one, half dozen of the other. All right, one down. 2 more pressure sensors to go. Alright, I won't bore you with filming the last one, but I will do a quick recap for anybody who's interested, but also for myself, in case I have to redo one of these. So it is a Delphi throttle position sensor from GM. And where did I buy it? Whatever Tony said. Racetronics, I think, out of Canada. And basically I strip back 2 inches, then I use this really thin, just regular wall heat shrink. It's 3/64 clear. So yeah, exactly. I strip back 2 inches, then I put then I put a 1/2 inch piece over this. If you want to put your label, put your label. This is maybe like 1/8 inch or whatever slides over it, clear. This is double wall, so it has the glue in it to kind of hold it all together and seal it. Then I cut these little ones 1 3/4 inches, and I strip maybe 30 seconds insulation off of the main wire, and I put the clear wire on so you can see the colors, and it provides a seal that's tighter going through there. Then you got to slide the rubber grommet on, then you got to slide this on, then you crimp the connectors on this end and slide the whole thing together. So it was a little bit of a process. I did messed up 2 or 3 times before I got it to the way I want it, but I really like it. And yeah, so that basically, there's the manifold pressure. This one is gonna go down under here. Anyway, wrap around and plug into that. I also, this is for the oil temperature. So I basically just connected those together with those crazy expensive environmental crimp connectors, which are basically just watertight connectors. And then I back looped it around itself. So basically, there's a bend in each one. A, that gives you excess wire, and B, it's a strain relief. And the connectors I'm talking about are these guys here with that heat shrink. They're about $1.50 each, so pretty pricey. I also did the 1 amp fuse connections for my shunt box, and then those go down here. And these were exactly I didn't cut these at all. I didn't cut that one. I didn't cut the fuel pressure sensor, and I'm gonna next do the one for down here. I still want to make the other heat shield, but I think for now I'm gonna say good night. Happy Thanksgiving. Today's Thanksgiving, so I squeezed a couple hours in here. And thank you for watching. Happy building. And remember, all of this stuff, that's just me doing it. No instructions, just some other wacko's point of view. All right, good night. Happy flying.